Well, Atlanta's been hit hard by CMBS loans gone bad. At one time, this year, it was leading the nation in CMBS loans and special servicing. I think it's still way up the list. Why is that happening more in Atlanta than other cities?
Well, it seems like we've always sort of been the Wild West of real estate around here. I can go back way too long, but I can just remember back we were always doing the same thing in the banks here, whether it was when Mills Lane was alive, it was a little tighter, but CNS they were always willing to take risks with you, and it sort of developed a culture of gunslingers. Some of you don't have the Western Channel, you don't know what I'm talking about, but how many of you have the Western Channel? Well, what do y'all do at night? You ought to get the Western Channel. Every night from 7 to 8, Gunsmoke. In black and white. But I think we have developed a culture here over a long period of time of sort of gunslinging, building. Most people here could always get the money to build a building spec. A lot of places you can't do that. And it's because we had a history of migration of people and companies into the area. And I think the banks just felt good about it. And for a long time it did work. And it does work overall. But you always have those periods when it doesn't. And you're going to have a high foreclosure and a high loss rate during that time. And then people come in, they buy it up at a reduced price a lot of times, get it leased up, and then it starts all over again. So
I almost hate to ask, but when is the next new building? How many years is it going to be for the next new building is built? Not a build to suit necessarily, but and where is it going to be?
This will scare you to death, but I'll bet you there's somebody out there right now trying to get the money for it. And if somebody will give them the money, they'll build as big as one as you. It'll look like something in Malaysia. I mean, it'll try to touch the moon.
That suggests that no lessons can ever be learned from these downturns.
I never said they would learn them. Two different things. You said, can lessons be learned? Yes. Will we learn them? No. It's just the way it is. For a few people will. But there's always going to be a few morons come in behind. Pick it up. I mean, think about it. If you give somebody money, what are they going to do with it? They're going to use it. And if they can talk somebody out of the money, and they just, historically, they've been able to do that around here. And if you, why wouldn't you build one building to the moon if somebody will give you all the money and you don't have a dime in it?
But as Mr. Blank pointed out, maybe that has to change in Atlanta in this next cycle. Maybe the perception outside of Atlanta should, if Atlanta does a campaign or undergoes a campaign to limit that perception that it overbuilds, maybe investors.
Now think about that. We're going to go out and advertise that we are a new city. We're going to only build buildings that are fully leased, and you can come here comfortably. Now, what do you think the chances of that are?
I'm optimistic.
You are? I think as long as somebody's giving somebody money, they're not going to be part of the advertising campaign. They're going to be over there trying to build a building as fast as they can build it and spec it out. That's just we even got property in Moscow now. That's just the nature of the beast. Now, what we really ought to be looking at is the bankers. If you really want to shut it down, you get a pact with all the bankers and mortgage people and say, okay, you're only going to lend X number of dollars in Metro Atlanta. Then you'll stop it. That's the only way you're going to stop it. Did I get an amen on that? I mean, don't y'all know? Do y'all know anything about this business? There are a bunch of you sitting there right now saying, man, if I could get the money, I'd start a Taj Mahal tomorrow.
It almost sounds like in this last cycle you put more of the blame. This is what I'm referring, on the lenders than you do the developers.
Oh, I think it's like a double-barrel shotgun. The lenders and the developers are right there together. It's just two different barrels. That's all it is. But you shoot both, and you load both. So I don't blame anybody. I don't even look at it as blame. It's just the way it is. That's for developers, I mean, that's like breathing. They gotta have the money to live, and they don't get money to live unless they're developing. That's just the way it is. And they're going around. So I don't want to even ask you, but if there are developers in here, you got 5 appointments next week with bankers. You're trying to talk them out of money to build something. Is that a fair statement? Isn't that right? That's what you do. So, and bankers, how do they make money? They got to lend money. Yeah. So that's just the nature of the beast. And you only get those restrictions like you're talking about. You get them in Manhattan. You get them in downtown Washington. But you don't get them here, and you don't get them in Houston. We're in the wrong town if we're going to say we need to restrict building. We're in the wrong town. Because the only way you restrict building is some kind of natural barrier. You got to have a river, a mountain. They'll whip you. That probably won't even stop you. I've been over in Saudi Arabia area, and they're filling in the Gulf with sand. So even a river won't stop them.
How about lack of water?
Well, you know what they do over there? They desalinate. I mean, I'm just saying, when people want to build something, there is something in them. In fact, if you go to that part of the world, it's interesting. They can't, and the reason, here's what they do. You say they got plenty of desert they could sell to people. Here's the problem. Somehow in the Quran, they can't sell the motherland, so to speak, to infidels. So they won't say anything going out away from the water. What they do is, once it's in the water, it's not the motherland. It's the same sand, but somehow they get around it. They get a special edict from the Pope or somebody. And they build in these cities out in the water with sand because they can sell it to infidels like y'all. But I'm just saying, when you want to build something, people are going to build it. And I don't know how you restrict that. I just don't know how you restrict it.
Last thing, we're on the verge of electing a new governor. And what are you and other investors looking at over the next 4 years or so in terms of political initiatives that need to be at least started or completed, by the next governor? What do you want to see?
Well, I already told you what I want to see. I think anything we can do to get rid of that 6% state income tax. Just look at the state, with the exception. When I had to move, I had to look at going to Texas, Wyoming, or Florida, or Tennessee. Now I must tell you, as a Georgia fan, I just could not go to Tennessee. I just, that orange is a terrible color. And I didn't like going to Florida, but I moved to North Florida, which they're actually, everybody that lives around me came out of Georgia. And they're down there to keep from paying taxes. And you go down there and you spend money instead of spending it here. So I really think that ought to be, in my opinion, absolutely number one. Because I think, first of all, you run off people with money. You just run them out of the state. They don't cost you anything. They don't have kids in public schools. They don't cost you a dime. And yet you just throw them, you're running them off. That's what, everybody I know down there. You think of anybody you know that's made a lot of money. They are not a resident of the state of Georgia. And that's just insane. So I think you've got to do that. I think one of the things, some of you, I know Sonny and his wife are married real good, but I think they've done a good job. Now, again, I'm not a resident of the state, so I think they've done a good job on some of these things where you attract, like the Kia plant. I think that kind of stuff is good. A lot of times we get focused on jobs just for college graduates, and I think that's crazy. I think you've got to have a lot of jobs in the economy to hold the economy up that are what we would call blue-collar jobs. I'm not sure we have enough of those in the state of Georgia. When the boll weevil came through and started knocked out cotton, and then we moved all those jobs to China, we've got a lot of good, hard-working people in the state of Georgia that need some type of job structure that doesn't take 25 years of retraining and a college education at Georgia Tech and or some comparable trade school.
Please join me in thanking Leo and Doug Sands.